Hi everyone, my name is Anastasia Grace from anastasiagrace.com, and I work with people all walks of life. I work with men, women, as a transformational mentor, as a emotional well-being coach and practitioner and healer. And in my work, uh, I do see a lot of problems and struggles and what problems that people are going through, and especially in couples, especially in relationships between masculine and feminine, and also struggles that men go through, struggles that females go through. So this is a series of conversations that I've started with men about what is it like to be a man, and showing the beauty of the masculine into this world, because my journey with masculine was quite a rocky one for myself, and I was probably just like any other woman, quite unhappy with female population of the planet Earth. I thought that my father was too controlling and too dominant. I was married for 15 years, and I haven't realized how many problems I have created myself, just not knowing, not understanding men and how to communicate correctly, and how to reach out, and how to be in the presence of men, and how to see them. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I started this journey of learning, understanding men. It started with Alison Armstrong books and workshops, and continued after more, especially in tantra or tantra work and tantra environment. And now, being in the most beautiful and connected relationship myself for almost 3 years, I understand how important it is for us as masculine and feminine, as men and women, to understand each other and see each other's differences and see each other's beauty. And I'm a big believer, equality is amazing. I'm not talking about like economical equality of how much we earn, but in essence, in the energy, we are very different. We're just like night and day, like the sun and the moon. So I'm having conversations with men, discovering what is it like to be a man, and what's inside of you. So today I am talking to Cain Esselman, beautiful man, who I know personally. I've met on many events. He's done so much work on himself in his spiritual path, in his path of self-discovery through tantra, through workshops, and now he's engaged very closely with Mankind Project, and developing for more than 3 years, and now developing into becoming a leader. He has also been facilitating men's groups and men's circles, and participating in different parts of the world and here in Australia. So he's so much involved with this path and the journey of what it's like to be a man. So Cain, hi, thank you for so much for being here, and please do share a bit more about like how is it for you to walk this path as a man, and what are you discovering for yourself?
Hi, my name's Cain. Yeah, I guess sometimes it's really challenging. It's the most challenging thing that I experience, but it's also one of the most rewarding as well. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I love who I am. I love that I'm on the path that I'm on, and that I get to discover beautiful truths about myself, and then also share that with other men. And I see a lot of men struggling with some of the things that I've struggled with in the past and have subsequently overcome. So I feel like I've got a lot of gold to offer other men, and I love that. I really love feeling into that. I also love in my or on my path through the last 10 years or so on my spiritual path and my journey to discovering more of who I am. I guess I've reached a place inside myself where I've opened up and created a connection with my own heart in a way that I never have before. It's brand new to me, and sometimes it's really scary. It's the most vulnerable thing, to be really in touch with my own heart, especially being a man, because it's not taught. I was never taught this stuff. My my family, it was just not, it was not part of the culture in my family growing up to be really in touch of, you know, with my feelings, with my inner landscape or my inner world. So I've had to do all this stuff on my own, and with the support of other beautiful men in my life, and with organizations like the Mankind Project. So
Wow.
does that answer your question a bit?
That's incredible. Well, from what you said, I have. I would you share? You mentioned the problems that or troubles during your self discovery. Now you're helping other men with those. Would you share? What are they like? What are the problems, and what have you overcome?
So sorry, say that again. What are the problems that I've
Overcome inside yourself, like during your journey and your self discovery? So and now you're helping other men. So what are those internal issues that you have to work through and deal with?
Sure. Thank you for the clarity. One of them would be just being in touch with my feelings. I mean, it's as simple as that. And something that, again, I wasn't raised with that kind of culture, or I was never encouraged to deeply honor my feelings and deeply honor what my truth is, what's going on inside me. So I struggled a bit with it, as most men and as most teenage boys do. You know, when I was growing up, I struggled with it. But over the years, I developed a practice for quite a while where I was journaling a lot. So I was having a conversation with myself quite regularly, and just getting to understand myself and my feelings and my thoughts. Because again, this stuff it's not encouraged in society, and I really I really value being in touch with what's true for me. Um, and I look around a lot, and I see a lot of men who I feel like are maybe stuck in their head, I guess, simply put, but stuck in just so many beliefs around what it is to be a man, or how they're supposed to show up in the world. And part of my journey, because I've gone through my own web of that as well, and had to come up face to face with so many beliefs around how I'm supposed to be in the world, or how I'm not supposed to be in the world. Um, part of the challenge is just overcoming that stuff and allowing myself to be the man that I am in this world, when I just don't feel like it's encouraged, not in a big way anyway. So
Wow, that's incredible. Thank you. I think journaling is very valuable advice or tool for people to understand themselves. And
absolutely.
it gets messy when your head is saying one thing and your heart another thing, or your gut feeling something else, and then you have all these beliefs and conditioning on top of that. It gets really messy inside there. And not only for men, for all of us, and for women as well.
And that messiness can be really easily seen sometimes when I'm journaling, and I see it all on paper. I'm like, wow, I'm obviously feeling a lot around whatever this stuff is that's going on in my life. So that's why journaling is amazing.
mm. So please share, what is it like in regards to your change and growth? What is it like for you being a man in your 20s, in your 30s? in through the process of self-development, self-discovery for the past 10 years, how did you change, and how was it before, how is it now?
I actually struggle a little bit or actually struggle quite a lot to reflect and remember, say 10 years ago. I can remember events that happened, but I struggle a bit to imagine who I was back then, or how I was, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like I've done so much work on myself, and I've developed so much self-awareness that it just a lot of the old ways of being have just kind of dissipated. That's not to say that I'm not free of it all, but I've changed a lot, so I actually find it a bit hard to reflect. But one of the ways I do remember, or one of the ways that I was back then, was very much, I guess the term people pleaser. Maybe you've heard of it.
Yeah.
That's been a really big theme, or a pattern in my life, which used to rule me a lot more. It used to happen quite a bit, and I just never had the awareness around it that I have now, and I never had the confidence in myself or the freedom to step out of it and actually break the pattern or stop the pattern. I always felt like, I had to keep the peace, or I had to do things for other people to keep them happy, or sacrifice myself, or just not put myself first. And that's been a huge change in my life over, say, 10 or 15 years. And one of the key areas now where I've just shifted right out of it, and I dedicate a lot more time and energy to myself. I ask myself a lot more, is this what I want? I just really check in with myself a lot more, and I'm far less afraid of speaking up and telling people what's actually true for me. Just the ability to do that, such a simple thing, and yet 10 or 15 years ago, it was almost impossible. It was impossible sometimes. So that's been a huge theme. And then also, or in relation to that, is just my level of confidence in myself, and my like a feeling of self-assuredness, which has just grown kind of exponentially over the last 10 years. There were periods where it dropped off a lot, and I still have my moments, and I still struggle with self-esteem issues and depression, and it's not feeling great. But then the moments of just feeling utterly confident in who I am and what my truth is have just grown so much compared to how I used to be. And I really feel the power of who I am, of my truth, and the fearlessness in that, and just stepping into that. And I love it. And I do it I often do it from a loving space. I can assert myself in a powerful way sometimes, but still remain in my heart, which is just a really beautiful space to be.
And finding that new power and assertiveness, has that changed your relationship with the feminine, with women in your life?
Absolutely. Yeah. I've been in maybe 4 or 5 fairly, or not long, but I've been in 4 or 5 lengthy relationships, each being at least a year. And I've noticed a huge shift since the first one, now into the current relationship that I'm in at the moment, where I just feel like a newfound sense of being appreciated and respected by my partner, or by my girlfriend, and just a love that I just had never experienced before with other women. Had moments of it with other women, but it just wasn't as stable as this feels. And that's been a huge thing. And again, with what I was just saying about my ability to assert myself, that's played a huge role in how my relationships have changed, and how I shape them now. And again, just being able to assert myself and speak about what I want, what I desire, what I need, and also just to be able to say no sometimes, because that was such a hard thing to do for some reason. That people pleaser would always be saying yes, even though inside I was like, no, like, what am I doing?
Mhm.
So yeah, just to be able to say no, and from a loving space, like, no, actually, I don't want to do that, and not to feel guilty about that.
Yeah,
But it's a
boundaries.
work in progress. I still, I still feel these things coming up. I'm not perfect by any means, but I've just come a long way.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, boundaries are so incredibly important. Unfortunately, that's something we are not taught when we're little. If anything, we're taught completely different, completely opposite. Is okay, think about others, do what I want from you, don't do what you want, do what I want. So it's much easier on parents when children grow up as pleasers. It's much
Mm.
easier for everyone, but as a being, as an individual, as a sovereign being, it's like it creates such a ripple effect throughout the life, and then it takes so much
And it's
time to undo it.
essentially it's soul destroying.
Yeah. Well, I notice in my work as an emotional clearer, as a practitioner, with a lot of men in our modern society, as essential, like as a main wound is insignificant or not enough. And
So this is for the men, did you say?
yes, yes, I'm tell me if that resonates with you. But I'm seeing more and more, and the more I work with men, and I understand where it's coming from. Uh, like in the tribal culture, when a male was born, he was initiated straight away into manhood. So in the tribe, there were like grandfathers, uncles, men that were showing the path, and at the same time there were grandmothers, aunties, women, and like little girls that saw that as a male. So they actually had a good sense of what masculine energy and a feminine energy is, and they
Yeah.
respected their differences, and they were both initiated then into their teenage years and into their manhood and a womanhood, guided by elders and by the community. And now when a boy is born into a broken home, or father who's constantly working, or father who's not providing a good example of what divine masculine is, there's a lot of confusion, and then there will be a pattern of a pleaser, because you are not feeling good enough, so you need to like make up for that. Or there will be an aggressor as well, and there's so many masks that men can wear. And we all have woundings, obviously, like of uh, abandonment, or not good enough, are we going to be liked, etc., etc. So every human being has those essential wounds, but definitely the way we bring men into this world affects their sense of self, and then instead of like being on a path straight away, you spend good 15 years healing those wounds that you've collected through your childhood and your teenage years. And yeah, it's heartbreaking to see. So I'm, as a mother of a teenager, my son is 17 and a half, so I know how many mistakes I've done when he was little, and I know how different I relate to him now when I've done so much and I understand men. And I was like, oh my God, okay, emasculation needs to stop right here. It's like respect is number one. Just showing respect number one. Otherwise, like, I don't know what the consequences are going to be. So it's really, really big kind of an important issue, and it's very close to my heart. I'm very passionate about that. So few more questions about like, what is it to be a man? What qualities do you think are distinctly male or masculine?
Yeah, I'd rather use the term masculine, because male in my reality implies the human male. And yeah, I don't want to discount what females might experience, but the masculine energy, in my experience and my understanding, is very assertive, very, to summarize, very penetrative, right? I guess the sexual act to me is it kind of says it all, that's kind of the masculine in its most raw form. It seeks to penetrate, and it seeks to assert itself and to stand out, and that's some of it. It's also different archetypes, I guess, and one of the main ones that comes up for me when I think of masculine is the warrior. Very much a protector-like energy, and that doesn't always look the same, because that protector-like energy might be aimed at a person's family. Maybe a man might feel that towards his family, but not so much the rest of society or anyone else in particular. For me, I feel that energy sometimes when I see injustice in the world, when I see, or hear stories of women being raped or people being killed, or just that kind of fierce. It's like a fierce energy, a fierce love. It's hard to describe it exactly. It's more a feeling, just a warrior kind of standing there holding a spear or a sword, and just not putting up with any shit, not putting up with any bullshit, and just wanting to cut to the core of things and get to the truth as quickly as possible. And very much, again, in my experience, very much a protector of love, a protector of that which is sacred, of that which is soft, vulnerable, feminine. The masculine is like the ultimate protector, I guess. And women very much embody that too. That's why I didn't want to gender it, because we both hold both energies. So
yeah, I love the fierce love description of it. It's so powerful, and it's absolutely incredible.
I also see the masculine in more of a fatherly way as well. If you imagine the archetype of a king, or even just a father, someone who deeply loves his family, wants to raise his children, or maybe raise his kingdom, to get them to follow a certain way, or to not go a certain way as well, if he sees them going off the path, so to speak, or going down maybe a dangerous path. That energy of just, again, it's kind of linked to protecting, but also guidance and care and wisdom. I feel all of that radiates from the masculine, but just a more mature version of the masculine.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is greatness for you? How do you define greatness?
Greatness. For me, in my experience, greatness is standing in my power and feeling absolutely worthy, absolutely good enough. And it's the absence of any doubt, the absence of any nagging fears, or if the fears are there, that they're very much a background thing, and they're not taking over, so to speak, and they're not running the show. It's a feeling of just being utterly in my truth, in my presence, in my awareness. It's just a feeling of being alive, just very much here right now, to the deepest possible level, and feeling absolutely connected to everyone and everything around me as well as myself.
It's beautiful. What is great for you about being a man?
Loving women, absolutely. number Number one. What do I say?
I think that's that's
Yeah.
that's plenty. That's a really good
That sums it
one.
up. The opportunity to love women is just incredible, and it's one of the best things that I love about being a man, is that I get the opportunity um, to not only penetrate physically, but penetrate a woman's heart, and to be so intimate with a woman, and feel her heart and feel her love, and just be in that flow with her, and that dance is just, it's ecstatic. It's amazing.
Mm,
Mm.
wow. And what do you love about women? Or like we can expand what makes a woman sexy?
Mm. A number of things. Very much her connection to her own feminine energy. So her ability to, I guess, surrender and to flow, especially to flow with me, or to flow with men in general. But in this instance, specifically with me, if I'm talking about a woman that I love or that I'm in a relationship with, um, it's also, that feminineness, the femininity. I find so deeply attractive, and part of that is a woman when she's feeling sexy and feeling, really worthy in herself. And when a woman deeply loves herself, I just find that so attractive, so sexy. Um, Especially when she's not afraid to show it for her
Mm.
own body and for her own heart. And yeah, words kind of drop away. Yeah.
That's beautiful. What would you like to be appreciated for?
Mm. For my ability to be who I am and to shine as myself in the world. um, yeah, just to be appreciated for that and seen for that, because I feel the power of it, and the courage that it takes sometimes to do that. And
Mm.
yeah, just to be appreciated for that, it's a wonderful feeling, and to feel like I'm really seen for who I am. And mm,
Hmm. And what helped you, like, on your journey for to find yourself and to be more connected with yourself and to open up your heart? What helped you the most? Like, can you share some with other men, for example, or other women who would listen to this? How did you get to the place where you are, from being completely disconnected from your feelings and not knowing where to start, with this beautiful connection with your own heart and your sense of self?
it's hard to like, I couldn't say it's one particular thing. Some things are coming to mind right now, like um, when I first became more aware of myself, I guess, and of a deeper reality around me. So in other words, when I started my spiritual path, um, that in and of itself was a huge opening, just to read books and attain knowledge through books, and I guess have my mind opened to other ways of being in the world and other people's perspectives on life. Um, I read a few key books that really opened me up, um, especially by some spiritual teachers. I don't know if you know Arjya Shanti, but he's his teachings and his wisdom and his own heart openness was a
Mm.
huge part of, like, I felt like I got a lot just from how open he is. It wasn't always in the words he said, it was just the underlying kind of transmission from a man like that. Um, and I've had a few different, I guess, teachers, if you want to call them that, along the way. Just men and women, but men that I've really looked up to. So here's a good example. Women, being in relationship with women has been difficult to say the least, but extremely heart opening, so heart opening. And I absolutely see being in relationship as a very valid path to move through life and to become more open and more connected to myself, and more in love with life. I'm very much of that belief, and in my understanding, that's also a big part of Tantra, or the tantric lifestyle, is to not reject any of that stuff, but to deeply embrace it, to deeply embrace women and deeply embrace life itself. Being in nature, it's another huge one, absolutely huge. Just the times that I've spent in nature, I see nature as kind of the ultimate feminine energy, more so than any woman, because every single woman and man, but every single woman comes from nature, comes from life itself.
Mm.
Pachamama, the great mother, the earth. So just to be out in nature and just to drop into that space is just heart opening, absolutely heart opening, and has been a huge part of my life.
Mm.
I've also had explorations in what would I call them? Sacred medicine, I guess. Plant medicine.
Plant medicine, yeah.
That's more medicine. That's the more accurate term. Yeah, very much heart-opening, mind-opening experiences through those. Profoundly so. Dance. Wow. Actually, yeah. If I had to pick the top three, dance would be in the top three for sure. I'm actually going to become a dance facilitator of like a guided ecstatic meditative dance. So that I've done many workshops in dance, and I've been to many festivals out in the forest and danced in the forest, and I've just had the most heart-opening experiences doing that. So they're kind of the main ones. But then the last one I would mention is men's work, men's groups like MKP. Very much been a big part of my life in the last few years. And I've just received so much support from men who a few years ago I'd never met. I didn't know them. And actually one of the most profound things that I got when I went through my rite of passage weekend through Mankind Project was realizing that there are so many beautiful men around that I had no idea about. I didn't even know that such men were part of my everyday kind of life. I didn't see them. I just didn't know. And I was just absolutely blown away by witnessing some of these men leading other men who alongside me were going through their initiation, and just watching those men guide the initiates and take them into their own heart and their own feelings and their body. And it blew me away. And then the support that they all gave each other, because a big part of the Mankind Project is that there's a massive support there. There's a huge community of men loving other men and all being a part of a team. And that was one of the biggest things that I got from that. And it just, when I think about it, I'm just like, wow, it just really opens me up, really opens my heart and touches my heart.
Wow. What is the rite of passage? Can you share a little bit more about that? 'Cause, I'm not familiar with what happens there, and yeah, what transformations you
So
got.
there's not a lot I could say really, apart from it's a training, an educational piece, I guess. And my understanding of MKP is that we're trying to help men have different understandings about how they can show up in the world as men, and redefining what it is to be a man,
Mm,
and coming into better relationship with women or with other people in society, with themselves. One of the or two of the biggest things that we teach often in MKP is integrity and accountability. And those two words, they were a part of my life 10 years ago, but not the way they are now. And I just, I hold myself accountable so much more than I ever used to. And the word means just so much more than it ever used to. And I really love that MKP has brought so much awareness around something like accountability, because I really value it, and I value keeping my agreements, because I feel that as a man, that's one of the key qualities that I love seeing in another man, but I also love seeing in myself, is when I'm keeping agreements with other people, which is accountability, but then
mm,
also integrity as well. So keeping the agreements that I make with myself. And they're two of the biggest things that we teach men that go through the weekend. And again, I don't want to say much because it's a rite of passage, so it's a
yeah,
sacred weekend.
yeah.
Um, a lot of it held in privacy, and just with a very sacred reverence.
Mm,
Um, we don't want people to think like it, that no one can know anything about it, but it's sacred work, and I respect the work that we do there, and for it to keep that sacredness,
yeah.
yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
best
Thank
not
you.
to, best not to
Well,
say
thank
everything.
you for sharing whatever you could share. It sounds very profound, and definitely
Mm.
very important work that the organization
And
does.
if I could share one more thing about it, um, it's it's amazing, absolutely amazing, to not only witness but be a part of the active unfolding of a man going into himself, going into his own emotions that he may never have felt in his life. I've seen that. I've seen men go into emotions that they didn't even know were inside them, or that they could feel. And I've seen the depths of pain and of despair that some of these men have gone to, and then going through that darkness and coming out the other
Mm.
side, and all the while having so many men around them just absolutely loving them and being there for them. And it's profound work, it really is.
Wow, that's incredible.
Mm.
I I have a question in regards to what can we as women, as mothers, as girlfriends, as just like everyday interactions as a feminine, what can we do? How can we relate with masculine in a way to have a most harmonious, most loving, most uh, connected relationships? Like, so it's a dance rather than it's a war of the sexes, rather than and I mean, let's be honest here, and you probably have experience. So you've seen some men being hurt by women, and having this trauma and carrying this trauma inside, and quite often it can turn out as an aggression. It turns out as a like shutting out, closing off, and not trusting, disconnecting. So how can we make our relationships better? So say I'm a mother, how can I relate to my son in a way that is this relationship is always beautiful and connected, and he's seen, he knows that he's loved and he's respected, or as a wife, as a girlfriend.
That it feels a little bit hard to answer specifically in the context of a mother and son, but I'll give it a go. I guess the thing I would say to that is to, or for the mother anyway, to love the son for who he is, and to not be putting so many expectations on him to be a certain way, and to instead start showing more curiosity about who he is as a person, as a teenage boy or as a young boy. This is equally valid too for fathers and daughters, or mothers and daughters, but again, in the context of a mother and son, I think that's invaluable, and it's what any human should do with another. Just show more curiosity and show more respect for the person as they are, rather than expecting them to be a certain way or to show up a certain way. Basically trying to, fit them in a box or in a mold, when that's not how people are supposed to be. Like, people just are who they are. And I know that that's not always easy, especially when young boys can be quite out of control sometimes, and hard to handle, I guess. But I think there's a balance in all of that as well. Of course, you need to parent, and you need to show some discipline and guidance, and but there's so much space as well for allowing the boy to show up as he is, or the man. I think equally so in relationship. Like, how does the man show up, and does the woman really see that, and does she see the ways that he shows up, or is she too busy waiting for him to show up a certain way, or hoping that he'll be another way other than he actually is? So letting go of expectations, really, that's a huge one. And just seeing the man or the boy as they are.
Incredible. Thank you so much. And I guess I will ask you just a last question about yourself. When do you feel at peace?
Before I answer that, I just had another thing come up for the last question. Do you mind if I quickly just
Oh yeah,
pop that in?
absolutely. Yeah, I would love to hear that.
So one other thing I'd just love to see more in the world is boys, especially, having support around feeling their feelings. And I've seen it happen so many times, and it's happened to me so many times, where, especially around sadness, if I'm feeling sad or if I'm crying, that I get shut down for it, or I get told to stop, or that boys don't cry. It's a cliche saying, but it's cliche for a reason. And there's so much beauty in sadness. And for a young boy to be raised by a mother or father, knowing that sadness is utterly beautiful and welcome. It's a completely welcome emotion, not to be shamed or shut down or repressed. That's incredible. And I'd love to see a world where that's how boys are raised.
Is it still happening? Is it still like boys are still told boys don't cry?
Absolutely. I'm sure right now it's happening in some part of the world. A boy is being scolded for feeling what he's feeling. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Just it's the beauty of kind of being surrounded by aware people, is that in my environment, and the way we treat each other and address each other is with a lot of respect for inner world. So it's
just not mainstream though, and not in my experience, and not in pop culture anyway, and mainstream culture, I guess. It's just not, that's not how it's done. And I just see too often, especially in, and it's shown in movies a lot, where fathers especially are terrible at it, or they put down their sons for feeling sad, or for feeling upset, and they tell them to suck it up, princess, or toughen up, or harden the fuck up. And it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then one of the worst things is that then boys think that that's normal, and that that's how men are supposed to be. So then they go out, and then when their friends start crying, they say the same shit to their friends. Stop being a princess. What are you crying for? And they're doing it because that's how they were taught. So that absolutely needs to change.
Okay, yes, that's definitely an important message. Absolutely. And I guess we are now in this transition stage where the old ways do not work anymore. And now this whole new rediscovery of what is it to be a man. Well, how is it? It's like a new level of integration, isn't it? And it's for the same for the feminine. Is a new integrated way of the feminine, because the feminine went from being suppressed to jumping into like, I'm totally free, I'm going to do whatever I want, and to extreme feminism, and getting lost in that as well, and hurting itself in the process, and hurting relationships, and hurting the relationship with self. And now this whole new way of integrating, and we kind of doing like, there's so much though I see in the world now happening, and there's so much education available for that, and I would love to see this new world of integrated men and integrated women, and this beautiful dance of masculine and feminine.
Absolutely. And that's why we're having these conversations, right?
Absolutely. That's the reason number one, to bring this whole new level of relating and awareness to these beautiful two energies, because they are absolutely incredible in its pure form, and also in a combination, and also in the dance, and also, as you said, like in integration within yourself, when you integrate it with your feminine and with your masculine, and you have awareness of, okay, what is showing up right now for me, or who's running the show, or who needs more attention, which part of me is speaking up, or is like requires something. So yeah, it's beautiful. Well, and my last question is, when are you at peace, or what makes you be in that state of, in the state of rest, and the state of peace, and internal and inner peace? How do you achieve that?
Number one way, which I sometimes struggle a bit to create the time to do it, is being in nature. Absolutely, being in nature. There's just something so serene and peaceful and tranquil about being in nature, especially when I feel like I'm immersed in it. So rather than just sitting near a tree in a park, which can be great, but really immersing myself in nature, it's amazing. It's incredible, and brings so much peace. I especially love being somewhere where there's like a stream, and the water's flowing over the rocks, and there's trees everywhere, like really green tree, like really dark green trees, and it's just such a sensual experience, and just leaves me no room to get lost in my head. Why would I want to be in my head in a place like that? And it just brings me alive, and I just find it so peaceful, so utterly peaceful.
Wow, you just gave me like a new understanding that you can actually see a person really, really well by seeing how they connect to nature. Like you can understand a person
Absolutely.
really well, or like
I never thought about that, but that's a good way to check.
Well, yeah, well, you just told me so much about yourself, describing how you're in nature. Yeah.
What I find too is that the way that I am with nature sometimes feels like it's the way that I am in life, or it's the way that I am with a woman when I'm intimate with a woman.
Yeah.
And I've actually, I'm not afraid to say this, I have actually um, loved, uh, not in a sexual way, but I've made love to plants and to bushes in a way where I was sensual with them.
Mm.
I was just so there with them, and it was so, I'd never experienced anything like it. I just had this sudden urge to be sensual and soft and loving and tender with a tree and with its branches and with its leaves and with all the little details of it. It was just incredible.
Yeah. Well, nature, the energy of nature is incredibly orgasmic. It's just so the when you connect to the energy, it's just the reappearance of the new life, because it's a life force, and life force is a sexual energy. It's the essence of it. So when it all comes out and it grows, it's actually incredibly orgasmic, like the whole aliveness of it. And
Mm,
what is more alive than nature? And only we are get sometimes frozen and stuck and like fixed, but nature is always in a move, it's always going. Yeah.
absolutely. And you know what I love, what I actually thought about today, and I often think about it, is that while I'm living my life and while I'm doing my duties and while I'm working my job and everyone else is working their job and we're all driving cars and we're living in houses and we've all got our dreams and aspirations, while all of that is happening, nature is just going on being itself.
Yeah.
The trees are just waving, the creeks are still just flowing softly with water, storms are happening around the world, animals are just getting on with their day, trying to eat or sleep. I love thinking about that, and it just always brings a lot of that also brings a lot of peace, but it brings a lot of perspective into my life of
Mm.
what's really important.
Yeah, and that there's a lot of peace in there. And nature has so much to teach us in its way, the way it's all kind of organized and flows together. I do I bring up nature a lot in my work when I deal with emotions, with people's emotions. And uh, there's so much to learn there. This sense of greatness and sense of this incredible peace and aliveness at the same time. Yeah, definitely. Well, Cain, thank you so much for having this incredible conversation with me, and it's showing up and showing your beauty and your inner world. It's thank you so much for the work that you're doing with other men, and I can see how passionate you are. And uh, yeah, it was very heart opening conversation for me. Like I was you just gave such a huge transmission, and there's a lot from I felt a lot in a lot of pain that is underneath, like all those experiences that men go through in the program, and also there's so much love as well, and so much greatness in all of that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity.